Hi, I'm Gill Pomfret. I'm going to talk about Reconceptualising Adventure Tourism, which is the first chapter of the Routledge International Handbook of Adventure Tourism. It's written by Outi, Rantala, myself and Adele, Doran. In this first chapter, we explore the concept of adventure tourism, how its meaning has evolved and changed over time, and new approaches to understanding the concept. We start the chapter with the question, what is adventure tourism really about? We often have different ideas about this type of tourism and may have images of people summiting up mountain peaks, whitewater rafting down a river, or immersing themselves into a culture which is very different to their own whilst on holiday. Recently, scholars and industry organisations have extended the notion of adventure tourism, focusing on products which encourage slowing down, such as forest bathing. The pandemic has also broadened our ideas of adventure tourism. For instance, sleeping in your garden is now seen as an adventure. Conceptualisations of adventure have evolved really from the fields of adventure recreation and adventure education. It's strongly connected with tourism, leisure and consumer behaviour. The Adventure Travel Trade Association, or ATA as it's commonly referred to, defines adventure tourism as involving between 1 and 3 elements. These are being in nature, doing physical activity and engaging with culture. The association recognises that adventure tourism can take place on your doorstep and it can therefore be a micro-adventure. ATA's definition is used a lot in research and the practice of adventure tourism, though scholars have offered a range of other perspectives to highlight the scope of this type of tourism. This chapter explores some of these different viewpoints about what adventure tourism really is, leading to the conclusion that we continually need to conceptualise this concept. One way to capture the different perspectives is to categorise them into 3 dichotomies, which are interconnected with each other. Hard and soft is the first one. The dichotomy between hard and soft dimensions of adventure tourism have been examined in many studies. Soft adventure refers to activities with perceived risk but low levels of actual risk. They demand minimal commitment and novice skills. Soft adventurers want to fulfill motives such as novelty, excitement and experiencing new activities. Hard adventure activities involve high levels of real risk, more commitment from participants and advanced skills. Hard adventurers are motivated by challenge and personal development. Secondly, commercial and original. This is also a well-researched dichotomy, which explores the idea that adventure tourism has become very commodified from originally being a set of adventure activities only for hardcore people to a form of mass tourism which almost anyone can take part in. Thirdly, home and away. This is an important dichotomy for any form of tourism. It's very relevant in contemporary societies where we're constantly facing environmental crises and climate change. Examples of home adventure, which is an emerging trend in response to societal challenges, are micro-adventures and proximity tourism. In this part of the chapter, we introduce some recent research directions that complement the previous section on conceptualising adventure tourism. We also show why the 3 dichotomies are still relevant today. The first is relational approaches. These approaches view nature as more than a resource for adventure activities and focus on the inextricable links between humans and non-humans and how they make their way in the world in unfolding relations with each other. They address the entangled relations of humans and non-humans and don't see nature as separate. Tourism scholars have applied relational approaches to different adventure tourism contexts. For instance, by considering the role of the weather in wilderness guiding work and looking at the healing potential of trekking activities. Scholars also apply a relational approach to their studies by exploring the embodied experiences of the outdoors and the interactions of human bodies with human and non-human worlds. They investigate the commodification of nature on guided multi-day journeys in the outdoors. Sharing, belonging and togetherness are constructed by engaging with diverse accommodations, when preparing food together or when using technologies such as GoPro cameras. Case study 1 in the chapter provides a useful example of a relational approach. It introduces the Sleeping Outdoors campaign in Finland. Scholars used to only view nature as something to conquer or overcome when engaging in outdoor adventure activities. However, more researchers are exploring these relational approaches. There is increased scholarly interest in the role of adventure tourism in subjective well-being, which represents a move away from conquering nature and risks while engaging in activities. A growing positive tourism movement has also encouraged more interest in subjective well-being. It's an umbrella term which describes different types of individual well-being, for instance, psychological, emotional, and social well-being. It's concerned with life satisfaction, positive emotions, and flourishing in life. Subjective well-being is a very useful concept to apply in developing an understanding of adventure tourism, as it reflects the positive outcomes of outdoor adventure activity participation. However, it's important to acknowledge the potential negative impacts of adventure on individual well-being. Ill-being is triggered by stressful events and dissatisfaction, and people can experience these when participating in challenging adventures. Ultimately, subjective well-being is often a combination of these negative ill-being aspects as well as positive beneficial outcomes of adventure. In this part of the chapter, we summarise tourism-related literature reviews which examine the subjective well-being literature to gain an improved understanding of how adventure tourism can contribute to people's well-being. Some of these reviews categorise different elements of subjective well-being, such as personal development, physical and mental balance, and the transcendental experiences enjoyed through adventure participation. We conclude by noticing the importance of subjective well-being in emergent conceptualisations of adventure tourism, and this is covered in detail in chapter 12 of the book. Originally, philanthropy was solely about goodwill to fellow humans. However, contemporary meanings of the term are concerned with helping humankind through donating time and money and charitable gift-giving. The idea that someone can do good through giving back whilst travelling has become more popular, especially with volunteering tourism. This part of the chapter examines different types of travel philanthropy: money donations by travellers, personal or corporate charity fundraising, and volunteering away from home. In each case, travellers devote their skills, professional expertise, and financial resources to individual community projects or organisations to encourage environmental stewardship and sustainable social change. There's limited research on adventure tourism as a way of being philanthropic. Scholars have, however, investigated charity challenge as a form of adventure tourism. The second case study in this chapter is about these challenges. We examine the different adventure philanthropic motives, which mainly focus on the charity challenge sector. The challenge of doing this type of adventure holiday is closely linked to the motivation to get fit, and the charity cause itself is a motive to complete a physical task. Philanthropic motives concerned with doing good and giving back are largely absent from adventure tourism literature, yet they're important to reconceptualise this type of tourism. Indeed, adventure philanthropy should be included in emergent conceptualisations. Discussion also focuses on the commodification of adventure philanthropy. To generate public attention, spread awareness and raise funds, adventure philanthropists must use social media to create a spectacle and reproduce spectacular images inspired their participation in their trip. The final theme outlines the challenge for charity challenge organisations in finding demand in a crowded philanthropy marketplace. The conclusion is that we need to more firmly recognise the inextricable links of adventure tourism with the surrounding human and non-human worlds. We need to understand better the reciprocal nature of adventure tourism's well-being impacts and encourage the positive tourism movement. We need to better understand the role of adventure tourism in individuals', community, societal and environmental well-being. Recently, new themes such as philanthropy have pointed out the willingness to care for other humans while engaging in adventure. tourism. Importantly, the environmental crisis requires us to care for the surrounding natural environment when experiencing and producing adventure tourism. Thank you.